from doing those extra years of college. So anyway, let's jump in. First week of this class is really kind of about you getting to know yourself and then you putting into a single page, a double-spaced 12-point font, Word document, single page, just who you are and what's important about you for people to know and what you would like to do with your life and your career. So that's where we're going in this whole class. But in this first week, we're going to jump in with a bio and some other things. So let me share things with you now. I'm going to start by sharing the syllabus, which is in Blackboard. And in Blackboard, if you are in the desktop version of it, I can't vouch for how this works in mobile, but in the desktop version, you should see this left-hand navigation page and syllabus is right there at the top. Now, when you click on that, and I'm in a Mac right now, you will see I'm also missing one more week in this schedule. I'll get that in there. But you will see just the syllabus itself, which is downloadable at this link. Okay. You will also see weekly modules and deliverables. Deliverables are what they call it in the business world, at least what they did last time I worked in the business world. Those are the things you will deliver. So things, i.e. documents, videos where appropriate, profiles, screenshots, all sorts of different stuff that you will create as assignments for this class. This middle column, content and activities, is videos you will watch. There's an online personal values test to take here. There's this spy writing workshop that I'm in right now that you are going to follow along in or watch or listen to whenever you want. And then one of the other things to do is set up a LinkedIn profile. And there's both a webpage to look at and then doing that and uploading a screenshot in Blackboard. So when you're in Blackboard, what you want to do is go to modules and course content to start doing the work. So module 1 is week 1. First thing you can do is watch the slides about this course, which is what you're watching right now. You will also take this personal values assessment. And what that does is it gives you a sense of what values, personal values, matter to you. You take this test, and I mean, it's not clinical. It's not really going to give you a whole bunch of information about yourself you don't already know, but you take the test and then you learn a little more about what matters to you, or at least you learn the priorities that this one online quiz, again, it's not a professional judgment, but this one online quiz tells you about yourself. So take that, and before you even think about starting your bio, save this document you'll get at the end of the quiz. It's really a web page that lists 5 values that are your top things in order of what the test says you think is the most important. Save that and refer to it when you're writing your bio. And there is a downloadable document here that will help guide you along the way on writing that bio. I've also included some student examples from previous semesters that earned perfect grades, so you can see what I'm looking for. And then finally, what you need to do is create, well, not finally, next to last thing you need to do is take a look at this webpage about creating a good LinkedIn profile. Read through it, it's not long, and then apply the things that are in there to your LinkedIn profile, because in this class, every week, you're going to be posting news to your LinkedIn profile. It's an important thing to do to get your visibility up in a space where people are looking for folks to hire. School uses Handshake, and that's fine because that's meant for recent graduates or people who are about to graduate to find jobs and internships. But LinkedIn is where the professionals are. So I think that covers all of this. Oh, one other thing, after you have updated your LinkedIn profile, what you want to do is do the discussion post for week 1, which means going into this place, also reachable through discussions over here on the left side, and answering this question. So you want to read through this, post a reply to that question, and you're done for the week. Shouldn't be any more time spent than that on each module for each week. So let's go on to the PowerPoint presentation that's relevant. What I'm going to talk about here specifically is much of what's in that Word document. I'm going to try to walk you through some examples. So this is the syllabus, as I was telling you about, showing the link where you download the full document, which I want you to read, and I want you to notice that no late assignments are accepted in this course. So make sure you turn in everything the week it's due. Okay, you'll also see the schedule with week 5 in it, which is not there right now, but I'll fix that. Read through the syllabus. I know there's a lot of stuff in syllabi that's easy to, you see it all the time, but make sure you read what the course prereqs are for this class. Make sure you read all of the information about your assignments and how much weight each assignment has on your final grade, and read through the schedule you'll see at the end, and make sure that you are noticing how to get in touch with me if you have a question, okay? All of that's in the syllabus. Every week for this class, 5 weeks, you will have one assignment. You'll create or watch one video, should be one reading, one discussion post, and one post to LinkedIn. That's essentially what you do for 5 weeks. It's not a whole lot of work. This is the personal values test I was talking about, and I showed you a little bit earlier. When you go to the link that's in Blackboard, it will come up with this page, and what you do is you click on where it says to take the test. Make sure that you save that and print or screenshot your results, not as an assignment, but for your own reference as you write your bio, and maybe as you start looking at jobs and thinking about whether the place you think you want to work is really where you want to work. The personal values test gets to this idea of about not just, what we care about, honesty, integrity, etc., but how that affects what we do every day. How thinking about your values tells you what you really want to do for a living, what you want to do with your life, how you might be affected if somebody asks you to do something unethical, for instance, what matters to you in the end. And all of that really influences what your priorities are when you're at work, when you're in school. If you care about money, you will be doing the things that will help you make more money, and you'll be learning about economy, and you'll be learning about maybe stock and investments and things that people who want to make money are concerned with. If you want to be creative, that's going to change. That's a different priority. You need to know what you value so you know what kind of job you want and what kind of place you want to work. It may seem kind of, touchy-feely, but it's actually an important thing to consider. I can vouch for it professionally. When I quit being a journalist, I promised myself I would not work anywhere that I could not honestly say good things about. And I kept that promise to myself, and it has made all the difference. I'm not rich, but I'm happy. So that's what you want to be thinking about as you look at this personal values test. Now, on to writing your bio. It's got to be brief. As I said earlier, there are 3 student examples that you'll see in Blackboard. They're really worth looking at. It should tell the reader enough about you that they feel like they know you a little more than they do from your resume. It should also give them a sense of whether you'd fit into the culture of a company, and whether, as not just your skills and experience, say, but your approach is the kind of thing that will fit with a job. So imagine an employer or potential employer is reading this. They want to know whether you fit the position, whether you have the skills, experience, approach, attitude, aptitude, etc. But they also want to know not just that you can do the things, but that you will work well in a team. Every workplace is a team. Unless you own your own business and nobody else helps you out, every workplace is a team. So you need to be able to get along with your colleagues and work in an environment. In tech, for instance, you might have a kind of crazy, broy, macho, competitive environment. You need to be able to deal with that or enjoy that if that's what you want to do. On the other hand, if you are working in PR, there tends to be much more of a creative kind of, I won't say laid back, because you're always competing for customers or to impress the boss, but different kinds of work have different atmospheres, colleagues, and culture. And that's really what your bio helps tell people. So your bio is something that you might post on your webpage. You actually should. It is something that you could use in a shortened version for your LinkedIn profile to describe yourself. It is something that as you get into the workplace and get into more senior positions and start maybe being asked to present places or go to conferences, it's something that you will use a lot to tell people who you are in a quick way so they have a sense of who you are. Makes sense. So these 10 questions can help you write your bio and inform where you're going to go with it. These are not required to be presented in your bio in this order. In fact, I'm going to tell you after we read through these, put them in the order in which they are your priorities. So all of these 10 questions, pick the thing that you think says the most about you. That might be where you were born. If you've always lived there and you have a real connection, it could be what you value in life, that the most important thing in your life is being honest and having integrity. It could be your goals are the most important thing to you right now, what you want to become. It could be that you're inspired by someone. Who do you admire, etc. So these are not prioritized in order. These are just, the numbers are random. Okay, so here are the things. Where were you born? Generally speaking, most people will include that in a personal bio. You might not put it in a professional one, but it's especially important if where you were born influenced you in some way. If having been born in a certain city or a certain country has something to do with your life since then. Some loyalties, some cultural issues, some maybe especially when it comes to a job, maybe you don't want to leave that place if you've lived there all your life. Where you were born can tell people something about you, but as much as that, as you're applying for a job, where you live now will tell people about you because they'll get a sense. If you're still in Greensboro because you are still in school, then maybe it's not so relevant. So it goes down the list of priorities to include. But if you are already out of school and you are working in New York City, that says something about you. If you're working in the biggest city, I think it's still biggest city on earth, although Bangkok might be in the competition. If you are working in New York City, you probably have accomplished something in your life. It's just hard to start out there, and it's certainly an expensive place to live. So, where were you born? Where do you live now? Where else have you been? Maybe there was a trip you took. Something, it's hard not to be self-referential, so I'll go ahead and do that. But this picture makes me think of having met my best friend, Lynn, in New Mexico to go to a place called Ghost Ranch. We spent a week there, and it's where Georgia O'Keeffe, female artist, interesting artwork, spent a lot of time, and we actually saw her house. It's beautiful. It's much like this. It's desert, but there are some gorgeous flowery places in the desert. And it really brought us closer to spend this time together and go to Santa Fe and go to Albuquerque and just the two of us, at an advanced age, shopping together and having margaritas together really gave me a sense of who I am with her and what that friendship meant to me. So maybe there's a trip you took somewhere. Maybe there's a place you visited that really made an impression on you that in fact inspired you to do what you're about to do or to go where you want to go. What do you value matters a lot. I keep talking about honesty and integrity because those are two things I value immensely, but those things also tell you something about yourself. That personal values test may surprise you. At the very least, the personal values test gives you a better sense of what matters the most to you. And your values absolutely should be taken into account by you as you move out into the world and decide to make something of yourself, and as you get into a field that can sometimes compromise your values. The other things that are important in a bio are the things you like to do. So not necessarily work skills, but like when you're not working, what do you like to do? Do you like to go to parks and have picnics? Take a kayak out on the lake? Do you like to do photography as a hobby? Do you like to write to entertain yourself? Do you like to post to social media? Maybe you are a TikTok influencer. What are the things that you just enjoy doing and that you do to take off the stress and all the other stuff that happens in a regular day? What do you like to do? That has something to do with who you are and where you want to go. So include that in your bio. Think about an answer to this question. So why would you go into journalism or mass media production or public relations? Those things are connected. They're sort of two sides of the same coin, and production covers everything. But journalists tend to have maybe different values than people in public relations, different personalities. Certainly, it's a different job. So think about, as you were writing this bio, what draws you to the field you want to go into, and write something about that in your bio that also helps an employer know what your skills are and what your approach might be. The most important thing, really, obviously, for an employer, but for you too, is to know what you're good at. And you can certainly be really good at something that you don't enjoy. I was really good at math when I was in high school. I hated it. Now I'm terrible at it. So what you want to include in a bio is some mention, and this really talks about soft skills, this little graphic, some mention of the soft skills you have that are incredibly valuable in a workplace these days, especially when we're often working remotely with people we rarely see. Soft skills are critical. And you can see, Coke. You can see in these smaller circles in this little graphic, sense making, novel and adaptive thinking, social intelligence, which kind of means how well you read people and get along with them. New media literacy. Do you know how to create TikTok videos and use Snapchat filters? Cognitive load management, meaning can you deal with a whole lot of stressful things going on at once? All these soft skills are really important. And try as you write them in your bio not to use these catchphrases that are, everybody talks, but nobody really actually says anything that way in normal life. So you can talk about how you make sense of things by determining what has to happen first or what thing is critical to the other things. What are you really, really good at? So your soft skills, also your hard skills, whether you can use Adobe Premiere and whether you can use CapCut and whether you know how to incorporate AI into your work without letting it do the work that your creative skills really need to do. And really, this is a tough one. I've never been real good at answering this for myself, but 5 years from now, where do you see yourself? What are you doing? What kind of work are you doing? Where are you geographically? Do you have your own business? Are you a Hollywood movie mogul? Are you an independent investigative journalist exposing all the graft and corruption in the world and make it a better place? Think about where you will be in 5 years and imagine that and write it into your bio in some way. And really, this one may not have an answer for you at this point, but if it does, this is also important and include it in your bio in the sense of if you feel as if you have a purpose, if there's something you are driving toward, it can be spiritual, it can be religious, it can be that career goal. Write about that in your bio. This is what drives me. This is what helps me get up in the morning. This is caring about my family is what makes everything else worthwhile. Something like that. Include that in your bio without getting too personal or too deeply emotional. And you can really add a lot more information about who you are as a person than all the rest of that, sort of detailed analytical stuff. So go through all these questions, write down your answers for each question, and then rank them to you most important to least. So, if you put them in a document, copy paste. Which thing matters the most? Put it at the top. Think about what's most important to working in your field. So, if you're going to be a journalist, maybe persistence is important and having a purpose in life of not giving up easily. That's a great thing for an investigative journalist to have because there are going to be times you get really frustrated. If you're in PR, maybe you talk about you rank those things, those answers to those questions by which really are important for you to get a job. Any field you're in, that's going to matter. But all of this put together in this sort of vague way I'm describing it should go into one page. I know it could be a book easily, but you're just going to put it in one page. Double space. There's the good news, I guess. Keep it short. 12-point font, the usual kind of silly to think of these things because we don't really have much paper anymore, but about 300 words, really, should be the length of your bio. If you want to go a little longer, you can, but if you are reaching into 3-page territory, too long. Keep it brief enough that when you share it with someone, they won't get tired of reading it and lose interest. But at the same time, it gives them a little more about you, a little more knowing you than a resume would do. So that's your bio talk. Also this week, you want to remember to do the other things that you'll see in Module 1 in the course content section of Blackboard. So read that article on optimizing your LinkedIn profile and then do it. Go into your LinkedIn profile and use what you read in there, update it, and then you are going to post an article, a news article, or post content about something you have done, something you have accomplished. It doesn't have to be work related. Maybe you ran your first marathon. Maybe you climbed a tree and found a bird's nest. Maybe, does anybody climb trees anymore? Maybe you found an old album that you've been looking for forever, whatever. Do a post in LinkedIn about something in the news, something that has to do with you, something that has to do with your field, even if it's sharing some video, which would be great. So update your profile, post a news item to your feed from that profile, and then upload a screenshot in Blackboard. And there's a place for it when you go into the module. Upload a screenshot of that post to Blackboard. Then what you will do to wrap things up is you will post to the discussion board. There's a question there that will prompt you to answer it. And while you're in the discussion board, take a look at what else other people have written. Since we're not meeting as a class, it's one way to get to know your classmates and respond to somebody else's, with a, yeah, that's exactly how I feel, or wow, I never thought of that, or what an interesting thing to say. Something, respond to somebody else's post. Okay? That's it. Short, sweet, to the point, and we're done. And I'll see you next week.